everyone, my name is Kavita Gupta. Welcome to Nest Summit at the background of Climate Week 2020 from Javits Center, New York City. How many of you knew that carbon footprint from the fashion industry is actually much higher than even the airline industry and maritime all connected together? So today we're going to talk about sustainability in fashion, and I have 4 incredible women with us to talk about how they are moving inch by inch more sustainability in the space. First, I have Aslaug with us. She's the founder of Katla, co-founder and former CEO of MODERATOR, and a co-founder of TSM Capital. She has been dubbed as one of the 100 most creative people in business by Fast Company. Hey Aslaug, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
And you are joining us from Iceland today, right?
I am. I am currently in Iceland. I've been here for the last few months.
Great. So you have been in this space for over a decade now. What has been your journey to have more sustainability and less carbon footprint in the space?
Yeah, so I've spent most of my career in the fashion industry, and including my time in Moda and founding Moda in 2010, and now the CEO and founder of Katla. Over the years, I've pondered a lot about the fact that the industry, the system we've created in this industry is really inefficient in terms of matching supply and demand. So with our seasonal merchandise and manufacturing months before sales, we really overproduced a lot of fashion and then not enough of the styles that end up selling the most. So one of my goals with Moda was to address this in a small way by allowing consumers around the world to pre-order from the runway, and then we could send the designers orders that had come from consumers already. But it really wasn't until I stepped away from the industry for a little bit and I started working on a sustainable hotel development in Iceland that I really started diving deep into sustainability. And the more I read about the fashion industry and the impact that it was having on our environment, the more I felt like I want to come back to the industry and try to contribute in a positive way to move it in the right direction. So that's where Katla came in, which is a brand that I founded earlier this year.
Oh, I checked your website. Such amazing clothes. Like, I'm already a customer there. From a very similar journey, we have another panelist with us, Marleen. Marleen is the founder of Ziel, Inc. PBC, company at the intersection of technology, manufacturing, and design, providing much needed systematic change for higher sustainability and profitability with on-demand manufacturing. Marleen, what has been your journey? Because it seems like very similar with respect to manufacturing on demand.
Yes, it's great to hear that that Aslaug and I think alike. So my background was initially in 3D printing, and I started in the Netherlands over 12 years ago now, a company called Shapeways, which is the world's largest 3D printing service now for consumers. I moved to the USA 10 years ago. I've been here since then. And, 20 years ago, when I first started living on my own, I already started buying, electricity that was sustainable, making sure that my electricity came from wind, etc. So I started already making adjustments in the way I personally live. At Shapeways, it became, more and more clear that we have to make a systemic change in this world to provide for health right now, keep our people safe. There's, I believe over 70 million climate refugees already in the world right now. We have to make a change. And when I had decided to leave my previous company, which was in on-demand manufacturing, I had struck up an interest in the apparel industry simply by being in New York and everybody talking about me being 6'2" and talking about clothing to me in elevators and the weather too, by the way. And I quickly saw that the apparel industry was, after is the second most polluting industry in this world. People that have been in it longer than me know this much, much better than I do. I saw, just like Aslaug saw, there's so much overproduction and waste from it all. And I started thinking at how can I apply, when I grow up and, I want to do something with sustainability and really make an impact. And so I decided to start this company Ziel and say, okay, what if we apply, if we change the product, the process technology, not the product technology of apparel manufacturing, then you can actually go to on-demand manufacturing. You don't have to do super complicated inventions that reduce CO2. You don't have to do, all kinds of like super duper technology things in order to make the technology itself, the manufacturing technology itself, more sustainable. What if you go on demand and you take away that 40% oversupply that is there in the market? And what if you go on demand and therefore you make it locally? Then you can already drive a systemic change and improve sustainability while we're working on all those other solutions that we also need. And so this is the reason why I started Ziel, and this is why we now have a service for brands and retailers and influencers that want to have their own line of clothing with no minimum order quantities and delivery in under 10 days.
And not all of us want clothes in like 1 day or 2 day notice, right? There's no Amazon Prime for clothes all the time.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Oh, great. I'm looking forward to it. Now, from the producers, I very quickly want to move to, the fashion icons, the people who are creating the brands. So Amanda Hearst is the co-founder and chief brand officer of sustainable fashion company, Maison. Amanda is also the co-founder of Wellbeings, a non-profit dedicated to animal welfare and environmental conservation. Hey Amanda, how are you doing? Thank you so much for taking time out and joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to be in the virtual room with such amazing women.
I know. I wish you guys would be here and we would all be dressed up for this panel with sustainable fashion clothing line.
No, I know, and I've heard so much good things about everyone here. So hopefully, for by early next year, I'm hoping to meet all of you in person.
Absolutely.
And connect more about all of this. But yeah, so my story, about 12 years ago when I was starting my professional career, I knew I wanted to enter fashion. But I also knew that what interested me most about fashion was actually the stories behind the brands, who made the clothing, what was it made of, where did it come from? So I started working for Marie Claire, and I pitched the editor at the time, Mina Garcia, an idea of having a monthly column about ethical fashion. So I could tell the stories of the products, of the brands. And at that time, there were not that many sustainably minded brands, but it was an interesting moment and I learned a lot. And from there, I connected with my now partner, Hassan Pierre, and we came up with the idea of doing these concept boutiques where we could showcase sustainable fashion and show that it was luxurious, that it was cool, that it wasn't just this hippie, patchouli, clothing that was not chic. And the first one we did was 10 years ago, and we only had 6 brands. So it was really hard to find cool brands at the time, but nonetheless, we did it, and we had some success. And so we kept doing the pop-ups, and more brands would join us. And then we eventually launched the online platform, and that's where we are today. So we have an online boutique where we have over 70 brands, which is amazing, to have that luxury to be able to now select and see so many amazing ready-to-wear and accessories and home and all of that are working in the space in such an authentic way. So that's where I am.
This is very fascinating. You started writing about it like a decade back, and you started showcasing artists, providing them a platform a decade back. I don't think even I knew that there was an issue 10 years back in this space.
Yeah, no, and I think that I definitely didn't know the scope of the issues, and certainly the brands didn't even either. Even now, it's so complicated, the supply chains and understanding what the issues are and how to solve them. But yeah, for sure, at that time, it was definitely not in the mainstream. So it's just been so exciting to see that in the span of about 10 years, how far sustainable fashion has come, and that now it's at like everyone I feel like is talking about it now. Every top brand, every top editor, designer, person in the fashion space. So it's really been exciting for me to see that.
Wow, what an excellent journey. Now I want to bring in Stephenson. She's actually my personal fashion icon, a dear friend, and she's the first one who actually introduced me the whole concept of sustainability. She's a co-chair of the Codes Foundation, working to advance the foundation's ethical fashion and sustainable supply chain initiatives. Steph is also the brand marketing director at Eco Fashion Corp, a greenhouse of brands at the intersection of transparency, technology, sustainability, and innovation. Hey Steph, so good to see you here, and thank you so much for taking time out.
Hello. Yes, awesome to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So Steph, you were one of the first one whom I remember talking to around 5 years back and getting the whole download of how sustainability in fashion is such an urgent need. I couldn't believe the numbers. I had to go and Google at that time. So now tell us, how did your personal journey start in it?
Yeah. So from a young age, I always knew that I wanted to be involved in the fashion industry. I had always loved magazines and different brands, and had my internships at different magazines and fashion houses in college, and then started my first job at Condé Nast, working for one of their publications. And alongside this, my parents had started a family foundation when my dad sold his financial services company. So they were always focused on social impact and sustainability. And I was starting to become more and more intrigued in what they were working on. Though at the time, I didn't really see how there was overlap with fashion. I felt like there was social impact and philanthropy, and then fashion over here, and didn't really see where they intersected. And around that time, I started reading the book Overdressed, The High Cost of Cheap Fashion by Elizabeth Klein, and just was learning about all the negative side of this industry that I had grown to love so much. So, in kind of figuring out how I could be a part of the positive change in the industry, and knowing that my parents had this foundation that focused on issues that affected women and girls, and learning, that there's around 40 billion garment workers worldwide in the industry, 85% of which are women, which are facts that I learned from the movie True Cost. I wanted to figure out how could we use our family's philanthropy and our investment portfolio towards investing in fashion companies that were ethical and sustainable and treating their workers fair. So that was kind of my journey into sustainability, which kind of led me to meeting a bunch of different brands and being really inspired by all the people and brands I was meeting and the different innovations, and led me to meet Marcy Zaroff, who started the company that I now work for, Eco Fashion Corp. So it's kind of been a full circle journey to going back, working at a brand, and but in the sustainable side of it.
No, very fascinating. Thank you. I think what is very interesting about this panel is we have an investor's perspective, we have a creator's perspective, we have a supply chain perspective, and running a whole company around sustainability with all four of you. So I think one of the questions which I want to throw at all four of you is, whenever people talk about profit and loss in this, like bring in the business perspective to this business, their first thing is that if you're going to go through sustainability or right supply chain or human right issues and supply chain, it's just not profitable. Do you agree with it? Or what do you think, how is this industry is going to evolve where you actually have a double bottom line of both impact, sustainability, and profitability? Marleen, you want to start?
Yeah, I don't think those people have thought long and hard about the industry. Can I be so blunt?
Please.
So, I'm just showing my true Dutch colors here. I'm sorry. No, I mean, it's just not that black and white, to be honest. Can we continue to sustain $5 cheap leggings? Is that a way that we want to keep going? Probably not. But for clothing that is of normal value, of a mid-size value in the market to higher size market, you can actually combine those really well. There is the biggest mistake this industry has made in the last 25 years with moving production away from being produced locally towards thousands of miles away and 10 to 20 months away in development and production, is that there's been this focus on cost of goods made, getting the cheapest cut, make, and trim price. And There's no place better on earth than to go to East Asia to get the cheapest cut, make, and trim price. Absolutely, you cannot compete with that in Europe. You can't compete with that in the Americas. It's impossible. Yes, in Africa you can compete with that as well, East Africa. But when you look at the actual cost of goods sold, which is where your margin is, which is what sustains a business to be run profitably, that has been forgotten in the industry. And by chasing the cheapest price, companies have taken on a huge amount of working capital with high risk to create a push model where they buy a lot of clothing based on some kind of prediction or gut feel, and then try to sell that. And then you get a gigantic difference between cost of goods made versus cost of goods sold. And cost of goods sold includes your transport to the United States or Europe, your working capital cost, your discounts, your write-offs, the extra marketing you have to do to get rid of stuff that you couldn't sell, etc., etc. So then all of a sudden, that base price starts going up, and a lot of companies are not making money anymore. What's interesting about the current crisis that we're in with Corona is that it's basically exacerbating the trend that we've seen for a long time coming, that this way of doing production is no longer not only sustainable from a sustainability point of view, but also not sustainable from a profitability point of view, because all these companies are, how many companies have gone bankrupt in the last 6 months or in the last 3 years, and how many stores have been closed? It's not working. So if you go on demand, yes, it's much more, and you do it local, it's absolutely much more expensive from a cut, make, trim perspective. But, a customer gains stability in profits, stability in gross margins, and they only buy what they actually sell. And that difference between buying what you only sell and buying too much and then trying to get rid of it makes the difference between being able to have both an option for sustainability and profitability. Because the way we work at Ziel, we don't do anything special but the things that I just told you. And we have 90% less CO2. And we haven't, there's no pure sustainable production technology yet. We want that, but alone just doing this is 90% better. So, and our clients do have margin stability. So yes, for the right types of markets, for mid to higher market, it's absolutely possible to have both at the same time. And then I think we should have more of a discussion about ethics and morals, whether we should want to be walking around in $2 things or $3 things,
Yeah, I think that's...
And how do we clothe people? Sorry, yes.
No. I think that's such a bigger question about $2, $3, but sometimes it's out of need. But one thing which I picked, what you said is, and I think I would love to bring in Amanda and Aslaug in it, is how about reusable fashion? Because I saw somewhere that is also a way to say a customer, you will have a lower cost associated with the sustainable product, which is natural, home dyed, etc. So what do you think about that? Can that be a solution for somebody who still doesn't want to buy a $100 dress?
Do you want to go? You can go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just quickly, going back to the question of cost versus sustainability, I think the real question is, what is the cost of not pursuing sustainability in fashion if we really think about the impact that fashion has on our environment, on water, on our food, etc. But looking specifically at the economics for an individual brand or the cost for an individual consumer, I completely agree with pretty much everything that Marleen said. On-demand manufacturing, I think, is one of the big solutions in the industry, one of the most important solutions, and not addressed enough. And that paired with direct-to-consumer sales model really can help give brands enough flexibility in pricing. If you're looking at a dress that's $9.99, you're going to see, there's probably a lot in the supply chain that is bad. And a dress shouldn't cost $9.99. It shouldn't cost the same as a sandwich in a deli in New York. I do think reusing fashion is an important aspect to this. It's one of the things that we we've tried to, with Katla's business model, to really think about building it in a holistically sustainable way. So one of the things that we offer to our customers is when they stop using their item, please don't throw them away. Send them back to us, we'll pay for the shipping, and we will resell it if it's in good enough condition or otherwise recycle it. So yes, that certainly can be an option for people who really don't want to buy the $100 dress. But I think it is very important that consumers really, the consumer mindset needs to change. And we really need to start focusing on fewer and better.
Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that what both of you said is that the fashion industry isn't working right now. The model is not working, and so things need to change. And on our site, we actually do have brands and products that are under $100, and then we also have products that are thousands of dollars. So we aren't so constricted by the prices that our consumers are offered. But I do think, as Aslaug said, it's like the mindset that when you're shopping, you have to shop less and you have to shop better. And so it's informing consumers on how to do that. Because also buying like a $1 t-shirt might seem like a great idea short term, but that t-shirt probably won't last very long. You're probably going to have to buy more of them. So it's not a sustainable shopping approach either. It's much better to buy one t-shirt that is better quality, that will last you longer. So again, I think it's that idea of the opposite of fast fashion, shopping in a more thoughtful, conscious approach where what you buy is something that you think you're going to have for a very long time.
Yeah, I think it's the last 30 to 40 years of how consumerism versus thoughtfulness is what the debate about. And Steph, at this point, I would love to bring you in because you have an investor's perspective, you have a designer perspective, and now with eco-fashion, you are like going deeper into it with respect to brand and technology. If I pull out the investor's hat and say, you know, it's very easy to make a case on an Excel sheet, say, hey, we're going to produce a lot, it's going to be cheaper, more people are going to buy, the traditional asset class case, versus this is going to be $150, the similar type of cotton dress, but yes, it's going to last you long, it's going to be like come back as a some sort of a different reusable fashion. How as an investor do you justify that given the delta of profit there?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like looking at it both as an investor and then at our business model at Eco Fashion Corp, because I think it's attractive to investors because the beauty of our model is that it's from farm to finished product. So while a garment can change hands 7 to 10 times with middlemen and markup costs, our supply chain was built from the ground up, which allows us to be competitive in price. So it's all about verticality and efficiency, which is something that us as investors look at when we're doing diligence, you know, seeing how many middlemen have to be paid in order for the garment to become a finished product. So at Eco Fashion Corp, we don't depend on yarn brokers or gin brokers or a lot of the middlemen, which add up to the markup costs. And so I think that's an attractive thing as an investor, to see how vertically integrated brands can be, because it also brings the price down for the end consumer, make it affordable.
Yeah, that makes sense. How big do you think is the investor community, though, in this space? Has it been growing every day?
Growing, definitely. I think when we first decided that we were going to have a focus on sustainable fashion back in end of 2014, there weren't that many other people out there. And over the years, I feel like we've just been connected to a lot more people, a lot of families who have like factories or backgrounds. They had a sustainable fashion or fashion business, and the next generation has been really interested in investing in sustainable brands and different types of like new sustainability aspects or innovations in fashion. And more brands are coming out with like funds that are investing in sustainable fashion companies. So you're seeing it slowly grow over time, which has been exciting.
No, I think it's, I also find that now I can't skip a single fashion blog or like a magazine without reading about sustainability all over. I have a last question for all of you. All of you have spent pretty much all your working life into this space, and more as you're seeing and you're moving the needle. If there is like one idea or one technology or one initiative which you say is still needs a massive support for the masses, and that's what needs to change, what would that be for each of you? Aslaug, shall we start with you?
Yeah, in my mind, I think the most important aspect in terms of making sustainable fashion more mainstream and a bigger part of everything that is purchased isn't actually a technology. It's, you know, consumers really want things to be easy, and they don't want to compromise. And so the more and more, even though people more and more want to make the right decision and to think more about sustainable fashion, in the end, most of them are going to buy the cutest dress or the cutest top. That's going to make them look good. So I think the way that we can really impact the industry in the biggest way is to make it easy for consumers to make a good choice by providing them attractive product at a price point that works for them, that is at the same time sustainable. And if you look at examples from other industries, I think Tesla is a very good example from the automotive industry, where Elon Musk focused on not just making an electric car, but making a car that looked good, that was fast, that was the safest car. So people making a decision to buy a Tesla weren't compromising. It happened to also be electric, but now Tesla is by far the most valuable car company in the world. So I think this is really what the industry needs to focus on, is make it easy for the consumer to make that choice.
True, game changing. Give them an alternative in the price point by using technology. Agree. Marleen, what do you think?
I can just say amen to that. So I fully agree with Aslaug. Yeah, I think it's up to us to, you know, this is personally why I started my business, is to change the process technology and supply chain around the system of, you know, and create systemic change in the apparel industry on the vendor manufacturing side, so the consumer can just more easily make a choice that fits with them and is the right choice. And so I can only say amen to what Aslaug just said.
Great. Amanda, last words?
Yeah, no, I agree that we have to make it easier for consumers to shop responsibly. And then also from an industry perspective, for me personally, I think that cruelty-free fashion is kind of like the next frontier in sustainability for me, and something I'd love to see a lot more focus on, because I think first and foremost, the cattle industry, aka leather, is horrible for the environment. It accounts for 80% of the deforestation in the Amazons. And I think that a lot of the textile innovation that's taking place is a solution to that. So not only is cruelty-free fashion less harmful for animals and the environment, but it also represents the future of fashion from an innovation standpoint. So for me, that's what I'd like to see more focus on.
Oh, full strength to that, because the dress which I'm wearing is completely made from 100% recyclable stuff, but with the feeling that I'm wearing a leather. So as a customer, it gave me the feeling that I'm getting the style what I want and my price point, but completely cruelty-free. So, Steph, to you, the last word for the panel.
Yeah, I think it's also realizing the human side of fashion and how the garment workers are treated behind in the factories. And especially right now, there are so many orders, big orders that were canceled due to COVID, and brands canceled their orders and then didn't end up paying the workers, but the workers had already produced the garments. So just one initiative that has come up during this time is the Pay Up campaign by Remake, and they've really been urging the brands to pay for the orders that they place. They've unlocked now over like $1 billion in unpaid orders, and they really focus on the human side of fashion, which I think the stories of the workers aren't always told as much. Like Amanda and I went to Mexico, with Remake and got to go behind the scenes and talk to the workers. And when you hear their stories and just hear everything kind of that they've been through and how they're literally making the products that we wear, and they can't even pay themselves enough to barely feed their family. I think that really makes an impact. So realizing more the human side of it as well, along with the technology and the environment and animals. There's all different components that I feel like need to have more time.
Thank you. Very, very educational. Like Pay Up, I learned about technology. I learned about smart supply chain. I learned about cruelty-free, which is going to be the thing after 5 years. I'm sure everybody's doing panel about it now. So this has been very, very educational. Thank you so much for taking time out. And I really hope everybody who's going to watch it would be thinking about every time they go out shopping, what are they shopping and what's the story behind it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.